Alright, welcome back to Terra Invicta, or as I like to call it, the Max Coup d'etat show. We've just overthrown the government in Greece, which means it will shortly be undergoing integration into the wider, ever-growing Eurasian Union, which we will expand to include Italy this episode. Unfortunately, this territory in the European Union is impossible to get without annoying Exodus, and I don't want to take either the diplomacy from them or their mission control. I expect there will be questions about why I'm also trying to be friends with the Academy, despite the fact that what I'm doing is going to essentially lock them out of massive expansion in space. I don't need them in space. I don't need them to distract the aliens in space. What I need them to do is hold CPs. What I need them to do is hunt xenoflora. What I need them to do is be a target for the servants and the protectorate and not to be targeting me. So yes, every time I do something like this, I will engage in outright bribery in order to get them back to an in-conflict state. It's just for the better that way. They're doing their job, and I'm not going to declare war on the entire world, even as I expand. But the MC here, I really need it. That's like a lot of value, is that 6 MC points there, coupled with the 12 here. I'm essentially replacing 2 mission control stations in Mercury orbit. In fact, a little bit more than that, which is the same as getting back 6 additional MC and stuff that I could use for other things, plus not paying the upkeep on those operation centers. It's a huge swing. So once I take these 2, I am going to go to Mercury. I'm going to remodel some of my stations there. I'm just using a little bit of a buffer at the moment because I don't know how many of my stations the aliens are going to destroy. But anyway, you know the drill by now. Seize the executive, unally the Japanese and the United States, and then move in with the armies that are pre-positioning over here. And there goes another station and some ships. It won't be the last, but this is the price we pay for poking the aliens where it hurts. TLEO4 will be missed, but it will also be immediately rebuilt. I believe it was a combination of material science labs and whatnot, so we'll make sure we get the bonus by doing that. And here's a chance to show off a colony ship for the first time. So, humanity's first ship, Platypus, has made it all the way to this asteroid. All I now have to do is click Found Outpost at Rivers Crossing, and bang, just like if I had sent it there, an outpost is now under construction. Whoops, I've clicked away from it, that's okay. There we are. So this will be complete in just about 30 days, I believe. 30 days or so, this will be produced. It'll give me a construction module, a fission pile, and a core. From that, I can then produce the facilities in orbit of the asteroid that I need in order to reload Platypus with both fuel and a new module, and then I can get to work on a mine. So this will then allow Platypus, which is now positioned in this sort of outer eccentric orbit, to potentially go to some interesting places. In particular, there looks like there might be a launch window for swinging out towards Jupiter at some point, if I get the window right. Alternatively, out towards Saturn. There's lots of things that the Platypus can accomplish if it's able to reload with another module. So very exciting times. I'll have to wait for that construction module to finish though, just so local construction is efficient. So there you go, our first use of a colony ship. It's taken a while, and there are a lot of strategies that will use these ships more extensively, but Platypus has now done the job. And I hope the alien retaliation is closing out, but unfortunately, our marine transport around Mars is about to die. I won't even go into battle because it had no guns on it. So, Sustaining River has destroyed the Ion Emu. We'll need to build another one because that's how we're going to take the initiative stations off them and give them to someone else. I just can't find a resistance counselor to save my life. So, but there we are. We are sacrificing ships and stations for a good cause. Basically what we're trying to do is we're fooling the aliens into thinking, well, those humans may be good at the whole industry thing, but their ships are worthless, their stations are defenseless. We can just proceed with our nefarious plans and leave them be. That's what we're trying to deceive them into doing. Meanwhile, we continue to work on, arc laser batteries and all of the technologies that we're going to need in order to put together ships that can really wreck them. And just in case it wasn't obvious, it should be pretty clear about where we're going after we finish up in Europe. India must grow larger, and the servants must have no place to hide, even if it costs us continued retaliation missions. The aliens have stopped shooting for the moment, but considering I'm about to mess with the servants, they're probably going to fire some more. All I can hope is that my industry is able to continue overcoming the damage they're doing, and so far, I'm pretty sure it can, relatively easily in fact. Stations are much cheaper than ships, so as long as I don't have many ships out there in operation, I've retired most of them, the damage should mostly be to stations that are relatively quick and cheap to replace. And now we can start on Ring Habs. These are our Tech 3 habitations that we can have in orbit, so we'll be able to consolidate our interface presence around Earth, which is very important to us, as well as fortify some of our positions out near Mercury, and also our Mars shipyard is going to need to be very heavily fortified because we don't want that to be overcome. We'll need both Ring Habs and Colony Habs though, the ones that happen on the surface, because we'll need to be able to fortify both, and then we'll need the tech level 3 structures to support it, but by 2034 in March we should be there. Around the same time, in fact a little bit earlier, we'll hit deuterium tritium fusion, so overall we're marching at about the right pace. I'm picking up their weakness for story purposes just because I have open slots right now until weapons technologies get freed up, and I'm picking up one of the 2 technologies that gives you a bonus to unrest missions, because if and when the alien administration gets founded, having big bonuses to unrest causing missions is actually one of the great ways to hold it back. So it's in the slot right now. These are both low priority, but it's good to be researching them and getting the tech diversity bonus. I'm up to 6.6k science per month. I want to push that higher, and now that I've got the XSMC and I'm probably safe from alien intervention, that will swing that by 30 points, and also probably within the realms of being safe from the Kessler syndrome event, I can probably push out a few more research stations. Well, remember what I said about the platypus reloading and then eventually going out and accomplishing things? Yeah, that's not going to happen because platypus has become a casualty. But I don't think platypus has any weapons. Nope. So platypus has been destroyed by the sky shield. It doesn't seem to be attacking our base just yet. It could. I hope it doesn't. I hope that was enough to burn off the hate. But you can see what I mean. I'm now at the point where everything I do is going to keep triggering retaliations, and it's about modulating those retaliations while I basically contain the worst damage by doing things like only sabotaging particular technologies and only attacking alien bases, being careful about how much hate I run up, but at the same time I'm also just sort of riding the edge of what is tolerable, waiting for the point where I can start breaking out or preparing to break out into the stage where I focus on defending rather than just staying under the radar. And that will probably happen, well, that preparation phase will hit in 2034 with the Tier 3 basing technology. Now, great
Endless
quote from
blood and
Mr.
sweat
Von
in the
Wick here.
pointless pursuit
Genghis
of an
Khan was a
empire.
short-sighted fool. All that might, all
Xenos
that
4 and Von
weapons.
Wick,
Instead of
correspondence
leasing it
for
out to others and
civilians.
reaping the rewards, all you can think of to do is shed endless blood, sweat, and pointless pursuit of an empire. If that isn't just tell you anything you need to know about Soren Von Wick, I don't know what. Anyway, the Project Exodus has completed visible combat lasers. Fortunately, we were able to take control this time. Now, the next tier of visible combat lasers would be ultraviolet combat lasers. I have ambitions to instead go down the path of having access to phasers, which are the next level of arc laser array. So I actually don't want to pick up ultraviolet combat lasers at this point, I don't think. I think I want to pick up either molecular assemblers, which moves my fusion and weapons technology along, or I want to double up and get colony Habs at the same time. I think that's what I want to do. So ring Habs will happen, colony Habs will follow near after. We can bring a little bit of extra priority into this, but I kind of don't want to slow down ring Habs. It is a major speed up though. This number, however, will adjust in just a moment when other... What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tempt servant fleet. No servant fleet. Okay, I'm going to build a warship, I'm going to shoot down the servant ship, and I'm going to take their shipyards. They are not allowed to be in space. Take me there. Sierra 1, Talos class escort. Let's have a look. Point defense laser turret, crate missile bay. I can shoot this thing down. I'll build something that can shoot this thing down. It's got a Nerva engine, 5 armor at the front. I will shoot this down, I'll take their shipyards. I have been waiting. If you look at the intelligence menu, they've managed to solve their water problem. Some way... Oh, no, it's the... They've done the alien research, I'm pretty sure. They've done the alien research, which gives them the space resources. So they're now running positive on everything. So I can no longer resource starve them. I now just need to take their stuff. So I'm going to go take their stations. I really need to find someone from the Resistance to sell stuff to. Alternately, Exodus has spare mission control. I just need it gone. Alright, I'll build a warship and we'll go shoot down the servants and we'll take the ISS. So I'll do a quick inventory of my fleet because I disbanded most of it. I will design a temporary combat ship using some new technology but mostly old technology because we haven't researched most of the new stuff yet. And I will build a new transport in Earth orbit to take care of the servant problem because I just don't like them being in orbit. Ah, oh, jeez, and I'm going to get another retaliation because I'm going to another alien base in Baghdad. That'll cost me at least a station or two. Great. But we are moving ahead. Max is about to do his thing in Italy. That'll be 13 mission control. I'll clear out these xenofloras in Bulgaria and Greece, and we should be in a decent position. The Eurasian Union is growing quite rapidly. It's now a 5.0 just about on the democracy scale, so it's recovering from its days as an autocracy. Unity is still pretty high. Base level rest value is low, but I can get that higher. Inequality is low. GDP is up to $12 trillion. Research is up to 445, and it produces 670 mission control. India is on a pretty impressive... I'll move all these divisions up here because India is going to move into Pakistan soon. Once I throw the servants out of Pakistan in order to avoid having to destroy the Pakistani armies. But if I have to, I have to, right? I don't actually need... It's allied with Iran, and Iran has a nuke. Yeah, so I'm going to have to break... I'm going to have to break either Iran or Pakistan's servant hold in order to prevent a nuclear war taking place. I don't want one of those. Disarming the servant nukes in Iran is also on the agenda, but first I've got to take out this alien base. So we'll consolidate, we'll knock down the servants in space and on land, and I'll just take the retaliation that comes from that and hitting this alien base. But hey, this will be more exotic resources, and I don't want an alien administration founded in the Middle East. I'd rather it not happen. Well, there goes the real estate that I was hoping to sell to the Resistance, TEO LE6 for sale, all because Max decided to throw the servants out of Pakistan. But I think that's probably worth it. We can strip 7 mission control points from the servants, which they desperately need. A little bit of boost income, which they probably don't need now they're getting free space resources. And if we can seize control of the country properly, we should be able to take control of its armies too, 1st and 2nd Strike Corps. The country also just has some general value once it's added to India. It will affect India's democracy value and development somewhat, but adding the extra population means that when we have the CP cap to economy boom India again. India, by the way, is currently sitting at almost 20 trillion, so it's catching China pretty quickly, but most importantly, it is producing 1,000 science, starting to catch the United States, mostly because it is now a 9.3 advanced and 9.9 democracy country. It's doing pretty well. Unfortunately, the aliens did that, but you know, that's the price we pay for progress. This is an annoying stage of the game, but I think we've got the right approach to it. Accepting certain levels of retaliation, always staying under the cap so that whenever they do destroy our stuff, they burn down their level of frustration, while quietly developing some great new toys in the background. Let me go do some construction. Well, we were only able to claim control of one of Pakistan's armies in time, so we've ordered them to stand down. Unfortunately, that means the combined British-Indian armies are going to have to shoot their way through the second one. We definitely have the tech level and firepower to do it. Oh, this is good. Mercury. Let's prospect additional. 50% boost of resources from that base. I love it. This looks like... so yeah, our shipyard in orbit got destroyed, so that looks like our space dock being finished up there. So now the ship that I'm going to build to kill the servants, that's going to come from that base now instead. Yeah, the aliens are remodeling orbit, which means upgrading to Tier 3 stations, getting defense modules on is going to be necessary, if nothing else, to protect us from the debris of all the stuff that they're ruining up there. But we are nonetheless making progress. And no one hates us. That's, other than the Protectorate and the Servants, that's always a good thing. So we will complete the conquest, and we've destroyed that base. That'll almost certainly cost us more stations, but again, more exotics and slowing the aliens down on the planet. I would rather deal with the hate from destroying these bases than deal with the hate from fighting an intact alien administration. So suffer not the base to live is basically my plan at the moment. So India is looking kind of cool with Pakistan as an addition. I guess it's not really. We're just really undoing partition at this point. I'm not going to go into Bangladesh or the Himalayan states unless the academy loses control. So these British armies can probably all go home. Although it was an interesting historical feature for the British army to be the responsible for the one to help reunify Pakistan with India. At the same time, Mongolia is now politically under our control, so it is time for the US Army to integrate that into the Eurasian Union, so we will facilitate that this turn. It looks like there is a war between the European Union, led by Exodus, and Japan, led by the Academy. That's an interesting war. There are 3 European armies with navies here, some led by the Initiative, some led by Exodus. Very, very interesting. There's 2 armies there led by the Initiative. How is that happening? Interesting. The Initiative has 2 out of the 5 points. I didn't notice that. Anyway, that is what it is for the moment. We will reintegrate Mongolia, which will add a small number of additional population points to the Eurasian Union and reduce our cap somewhat. I should get a boost of 15 at some point in the future. Management research is going to finish probably for the last time, which will give us 5. Civilian quantum computing will eventually finish. That'll give us another plus 10, and that'll get us close to where we need to be. The problem behind my cap is that the Eurasian Union has now grown to be a 6 CP nation, the same as India and the United States. Quite the growth. I'm going to wait till I have a little more CP cap before I think about absorbing Norway. I'm just going to run another turn, and then I think it's time for some actions in space. No provocations for the aliens this turn, preferably. I'm probably riding the absolute limits of hate as it is. At the moment, every time I do anything aggressive, there's usually 1 retaliation in response, which means I'm sitting right at the level where the aliens are like trying to teach me a lesson. So if I can just cool my jets against the aliens until I see the next base, that would be good. I'd like to beat up the servants. I'd like to throw them out of Iran, for example, but I have no way to absorb it right now and I don't have the CP limit. I've also handed over Israel, essentially handed it over by abandoning it to the resistance. That gives them a few more assets. I don't need them right now. It's not a CP as efficient as me holding on to, say, 6 extra CP from Norway that I really don't have to pay for. Simple enough. Alright, this is good timing. We finally located a member of the resistance, so I'm actually going to do 2 things. I'm going to investigate him, because I'm seriously considering turning a member of the resistance just so I know how to contact them at any given time, because it's become that much of a problem. My plans are often on hold, I find, only because I cannot contact the people. If I turn one of them, I'll always know where their operatives are. Let me contact Mr. Herbert Griffin, and while I'm contacting Mr. Herbert Griffin, let me get some presents for him. Assault Hab, Able Tasman base, this is the Initiative's base on Mars. Let's launch a Hab assault and try and take that over. If we fail, we'll drop more Marines on it, and more Marines on it, and more Marines on it, until it goes away. Our ships to fight the servants aren't quite ready yet, but we can seize... We might seize Delos Station as well. Does it have any defenses? Just checking. Doesn't look like it has any defenses. So we could also give this Mars shipyard to the Resistance, as long as we maintain contact with them. But let's seize the Initiative's base on the planet first. I'm also considering throwing up a one mission control shipyard over Ceres to build an assault ship so that we can clean up Ceres for the Resistance as well. Well, they're more Exodus, one or the other, one of our friends. But that's the basic idea. I don't think we're going to invade anyone this turn. We're going to play it quiet for a few more turns, but for now we're going to trim down... I think we'll trim down the Initiative a little bit, maybe trim down... I'm probably not going after the Protectorate, to be honest, although I have noticed the Protectorate have broken into space. All of our opponents have now overcome their Earth locking. So the Protectorate is present in 2 places on Luna. They're still waterlocked, but they're finding a way to trade and make it work in order to get a little bit of infrastructure up. The servants have a couple of mines, 2 on Luna, They have the ISS itself, which is one of their main bases. Then they've got their primary shipyard, also in Earth Orbit 1, giving them that 40% xenology bonus. Then they've got an asteroid base, and then an orbital over Mars, and an orbital over their asteroid. So their asteroid's actually reasonably well stocked at the moment. The question is, what do I take away from them and what do I leave with them to run down their resources? But at this point, they're getting resources from the aliens, so it's starting to get a little more complicated. I'm starting to think taking all of their Earth presence might not be a bad idea. Anyway, I'll roll with it. So this base could do with a little bit of remodeling before we hand it over to the Resistance. I think the best thing to do might be to make sure that it has enough power, so we'll put two fusion arrays in place. We'll give it a settlement mining complex so they can mine some resources out of it. We probably want them to be able to defend it from the aliens, so let's slap a layered defense array on the thing. What else do we want them to have? We'll give them some operation centers because we want them to have the MC in order for us to sell them more things. We'll power that with a fusion array because that's not our problem, it's theirs. And then do we want them to have more science? What do we want? I think they can fill in the rest of the buildings. Oh, actually no, what we'll do is we will add a farm and another fusion array. And that together should be they can do whatever they want with this slot. That'll take away some of the upkeep for the station so they don't end up waterlocking themselves. Good times. We're just being good neighbours, okay? And there's nothing quite so satisfying as giving away others people's property in exchange for someone else's, I suppose, favour, approval. This will get Commander Aoade back on our side. She'll take the benefit of that particular base. We don't have the MC cap to maintain it, and it wasn't a particularly high yield site, but I'm sure she can get something out of it because it is water positive. In terms of what we want from her in return, there's not a huge amount. She's got a little bit of a build-up of these noble metals, so I might take like a sum of these. There we are. I'll take like two. I'll take like a month's worth of noble metals. She should need some of them. I'll take this. It's still a generous trade. It'll make her feel better about me, and life can go on. Looks like we have located an alien base in Nigeria, and we have completed their weakness. While it is tempting to regard the Hydra as godlike, were that truly the case, they would have simply seized Earth in one fell swoop. The question is whether or not there is any chick in their armor. Oh, not whether there is any chick in their armor, but where exactly it is located. No species would ever willingly reveal its own vulnerabilities. We question the Hydra, yielded a singularly valuable insight. It's hard to conduct an interrogation when you don't know what you're looking for. How do you stop an alien species that can enslave anything it comes in contact with? Several of our scientists have suggested closing the wormhole, but under pressure, the Hydra admitted this might be possible. But it would just be a temporary solution to a permanent problem. There'd be nothing stopping the Hydras from creating another wormhole and trying all over again, and maybe doing something even worse. In the end, it was a chance remark that set us onto the path. Under pressure, the Hydra admitted that the second enslaved species, the Griffins, had presented no military threat. However, the Hydras viewed them with special concern due to their propensity for biological warfare. Upon persistent questioning, the subject became agitated and implied that even humanity's relatively limited use of biological weapons in the past had further reinforced their decision to invade. Once we were done, and before coming here, I had a quiet word with some of our virologists. It's possible that the Hydra reliance on ferrocytes might make them specially vulnerable to biological attacks. I think it's worth investigating. Well, that's an idea. And is it at that point that you see the first diversion truly between humanity first and the Resistance with regards to the Hydra? The Resistance want to close the wormhole, stop the Hydra coming through it. But that's not, as Humanity First puts it, a permanent solution. So they're looking for something that's a little more permanent to go along with closing the wormhole. Alright, so what just happened here is really actually important, and it illustrates one of the choices you can make to fend off the alien administration. The alien administration is where the aliens come down and take direct control, or rather indirect control, of a particular state on the planet. There's two ways it can happen. They physically drop an army onto Earth, which the aliens aren't quite ready to do to me yet, but they will get there. They're just clearly diverting resources to other tasks because I'm keeping them busy on retaliation elsewhere. The other thing they can do is if there is an alien base in a region long enough, A servant councillor can use that base and give control of the region to the servants. Barat here was about to do so. He was resolving the mission, but Max's assault base mission resolved first, aborting his action. In so doing, we have pushed back the foundation of the alien administration just that little bit longer. I am no doubt about to be subject to a retaliation mission, but it's worth it. It's 100 times worth it to hold off the alien admin as long as possible. We're going to keep scanning, we are going to find these bases, we're going to steal the exotics, and we will sacrifice as many ships and stations as necessary in order to keep up. So far, I'm managing. They're destroying stuff, but I keep up, and you can see my resources keep going up, because what they're destroying is not enough to slow down my massive economic growth, but we're also not going into a total war spiral. So I stand by this for the moment. I'm trying to minimize the other attacks I launch on the servants other than the base destructions. I think they're worth it. So Max, you've just saved the world for yet another day. Go launch a coup or something to celebrate. Like whatever you do to celebrate, mate. Max loves coups, so maybe we'll send him to Norway or something next. All right, now we're talking ring Habs, and we maxed the technology, so we should be the first there. Sorry, I'm coming back after a brief step away from the game. Alright, so we have ring Habs. I think the next grab is molecular assemblers, just so you're aware of where I'm going on the tech tree. We've grabbed ring Habs, colony Habs is in place, so that's happening. So we're going to start unlocking our tier 3 infrastructure. What I want to get to is ideally, where is it? We've done arc lasers. There we are, phased array lasers, which means we need molecular assemblers and ultracapacitors. That seems like a lot of technology, but this also happens to relate to the stuff that we want in the fusion and engine chain, so we're not really wasting our time. This is all useful sort of stuff. I would have liked to go applied artificial intelligence and started getting mind and machine, which is your cyborging level 2 one. But for the moment, let's grab molecular assemblers. It's a good prereq, but probably then ultracapacitors and phasers. Also, I'm officially declaring Herbert Griffin here our permanent ambassador to the Resistance. As long as he's turned, we should be able to see everything they're doing, and as a result, we should be able to contact them easily to give them stuff on a regular basis in order to keep them happy. Also, hello Xenoform Alpha 17. You're messing around in the United States, buddy. You don't want to mess around in the United States. Everyone wants to kill you. Everyone is well educated, and everyone is extraordinarily well armed. You came to the wrong neighborhood. Max will be with you shortly. You know, I edit a lot of these out, but I thought I'd leave some in just to remind you of what this strategy sometimes looks like. Here's the Brisbane. Newly launched, this was a ship that was going to go deal with the servants. Instead, it's going to be the next round of ships that's launched that goes and does that. And it's being crushed by this 3.5k power fleet. So we're going to accept, auto-resolve, and there we are. So the Brisbane is gone, and this is how the aliens vent their frustration at the fact that we are messing with their operatives or destroying their stations or whatever. It's not satisfying unless you know that we are biding our time for a reason. I'm denying them a foothold on the planet itself, and that's a particularly worthwhile endeavor, I think. So let's talk about ring habitats. We don't have all the buildings unlocked for them yet, but they're going to be a critical part of our strategy, them and the equivalent tier 3 land bases. And the most important thing to remember is this: we must not under any circumstances lose our shipyards and a construction module at each of our critical planets. So we're going to need one at Earth, at Mars, and at Mercury, and maybe a defense post at Venus. So let's find our Earth. As an example, let's find our Earth shipyard. It's currently LEO2. I will rename this later on, but for the moment, let's set this to upgrade to a ring core. This will cost us 2 MC, so I have budgeted to go up to 150 mission control, which means 5 initial ring core upgrades. These will take 60 days. What they will then do is expand this station out, both allowing it to use Tech 3 modules and also adding additional module slots at the top and bottom of the screen. We're going to build some of these in Mercury, we're going to build some of these in Earth, and we're going to try and centralize and ruggedize our core infrastructure. I probably don't I can probably do without one in Mars orbit if I have to, although one would be very, very useful for defensive purposes. The alternative is that we fortify all of the bases on Mars. That seems expensive. Mars is probably the best candidate for fleet defense, but if I can ruggedize my buildings, then the number of ships I'm going to need is reduced. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to upgrade maybe 5 stations initially to ring core Habs, and then I'm going to start selling excess stations as they complete. The reason I'm not rushing and upgrading all at once, I would if I had all of the secondary technologies, but I don't have all the buildings to take full advantage of this yet. Once I do, we can reduce the total number of stations that we need to use in places like Earth Interface Orbit, like I just don't need as many. We can off-sell those, and we can build more defensible structures like this one. So TLEO5 is now going to be reclassified as a shipyard. TLEO5 5R is how I normally do it. So a ring station gets the R moniker at the end, and I will go back and transform the appropriate stations. I think the next priority is going to be in Mercury. You want to make sure that your op centers and your construction module for the entire area, which is your nanofabs, don't get destroyed. So I'll pick maybe 2 stations around Mercury, 2 or 3 stations around Mercury to upgrade. And then on Mars, maybe I'll pick some stations on the ground either way, pushing up towards 150 MC. So welcome to the wonders of human engineering that are ring Habs. These things are huge. They add an additional 8 slots, plus they allow you to use Tech 3s if you have them researched. We're researching our first Tech 3s right now. What these will allow us to do is have multiple defense platforms, Tech 2s or Tech 3s, without unduly compromising the usefulness of the station. So for example, right now, this is a money-producing station. We can have whole batteries of nanofactories in the center and still have what it takes to fit a whole bunch of defenses that mean that this station is completely able to fend itself off from alien attack. Now, what I'm going to be doing with this one is probably maintaining the nano theme, adding new and upgrading the existing ones as soon as the new tech becomes available, which should be relatively shortly. But this is what we are basing our mid-game rush around. Well, it's not a rush, but our plan to rapidly jump over the hate threshold and ambush the aliens, we're basing it around this. Yes, I am over 160 temporarily. I will bring this down as I start to sell stations back to the Resistance and others once I have moved my interface bonus buildings from those ones to the new stations that are being completed. For example, here's our first Tech 3, the Command Center. The Command Center is a juiced up op center. We will have a look at it. Spaceworks is interesting, but I think first I want battle stations. There we are. In fact, it's not a super rush, so I will in fact change that because battle stations are the last thing to go in. Material Institute should do the job in the meantime. This is the level 3 material lab, for example. So this will give us, I need to research it first, but this is going to give us the maximum interface bonus, the maximum research bonus. So this allows us to fit more productivity into one slot. So not only do my Tech 3 stations have more slots, I get more out of each individual slot. And I'm about to finish the Tech 3 version of the Nano Lab. Let's let that finish. There we are, Nanofacturing Complex, and we will go have a look at both of them as soon as we will set the battle station to research, unless we get the power station ones. Actually, do we have the power generators? I was hoping we had the power generators. There we are, we do. Fusion reactor farm, done. Okay, let's have a look at our station quickly. Let's go to our Mercury station that has already got a ring. The reason it completed first is because it has all those nanofactories, and those nanofactories speed up its build speed. So, Nanofacturing Complex. You compare this thing to a nanofactory. This thing costs 40 power and 3.9 water, 3.9 volatiles, 10-1. This thing costs about 3 times as much, 30 and 3, 14 and 14. Wow, okay, pretty significant. 2% research bonus as compared to 1% research bonus, but you're not really in it for the research bonus. 5% bonus to investments in economy in Earth orbit, that's fine. The key that I don't know, actually, I can't tell you from memory, is how much money this thing makes if it is inactive. That I do not know. Builds products for money income if the Hab has no modules under construction. Well, we're just going to find out. Because these nanofacturing complexes those nanofacturing complexes are what are going to enable and speed up the construction of Tier 3 buildings. So we kind of want to get them some of these online around each of our planets sooner rather than later, at least if we want to be doing Tier 3 building. And then what will probably happen is we will add battle stations to this, probably replacing these outer nanofactories or something like that. We will add battle stations to the architecture, which are basically souped up versions of the layered defense array. The command center, meanwhile, gives you 2 mission control for 7.3, 7.32, as compared to 1 for... Okay, so the cost is considerably higher per MC point. So what you're paying for here... Yeah. You're paying a premium in order to fit more mission control in one slot. To be honest, I'm not sure how many of these we're going to utilize. We're probably not going to be gated on MC, although if we get to the point where we don't care about water and volatiles, although I find that unlikely, the only way you're going to use this is if you have the Tier 3 farm. So when we unlock the Tier 3 farm that can offset those water volatile costs, maybe we will look at it. But for the moment, no command centers are going to go in. I have plenty of MC, and I'm planning on taking over Norway soon, which would give us a bonus 6, and we can't go much above 161 without being locked in a retaliation spiral. Anyway, let's build just a few more of these things, unlock just a few more modules, and then once it starts to get promising, we'll call it the end of the episode. DT Bloody Fusion. Thank you very much. So, what do we need next? This is an interesting question. So we're already doing molecular assemblers, which we need. We need that so we can go ultracapacitors, so that we can go for phased array lasers, which we want to do. What I now need to figure out is what I need in order for the engines to be in use, and preferably what I might use for other things as well. Because we're fighting our way towards the end of the tech tree, and I'm happy to be here. We're pretty early, it's 2034. But now it's all about tough priorities. Do I go for an armor tech? Do I go for an engine tech? I think what I want is new engines. I need to work on the fusion in order to get the power generator, which I'm going to have. I'm working towards phased array lasers, which is going to be my weapon system. So I need a power generator. I need an engine. So I'm going to hunt for an engine of choice, bring up it on the tech tree, and see what I need in order to get it. So this is the Z-Pinch fusion line of engines, which I think I'm going to go down. So what I need is this thing, the Triton Pulse Drive. So to get that, I'm going to need to do some catch-up, superconducting magnets, magnetic plasma confinement, magnetic nozzles. That'll give me Z-Pinch Fusion Reactor 1, so we really need to push these along. I might give priority. They're cheaper, but I will give them priority, because what we're going to need is Z-Pinch Fusion Reactor 1, that's our power source, and Triton Pulse Drive, that's our drive. So, superconducting magnets, it is. Give me the tech tree. Superconducting magnets, begin, give you a level of priority. That won't hurt, that'll bring you in June. I would give you top priority, except I want all of these tier 3 modules for my stations unlocked. So actually, I'm actually going to demote you slightly. Work towards the weapons first, but I do need to catch this one up. Colony Habs should finish in November. I'm not in as much of a race for Colony Habs, except for the fact that we need to be able to upgrade them at the last minute in order to fit defenses to them. More important to get the stations that are in orbit defended, and in order to protect the shipyards. As long as you have your shipyards and your mission control stations, you can probably rebuild your mining infrastructure. After all, the most efficient mining infrastructure is the T1 stuff anyway. if you're only after the resources, if you don't want the bonus modules. So I'm happy with this. I'm going to push on with this, and once we get a few more modules, I'll set up a tier 3 station, and that's where we'll probably call the episode. Well, blocking the aliens from coming to Earth using the servants meant that eventually they were going to send an assault carrier, which they now have done. An alien transport has set down in Brazil. Reconnaissance imagery shows it is disgorging troops and war machines. We have 30 days to stop it. So, here is the question. Will Brazil accept an alliance? They will. The United States of America, under the control of Humanity First, have formed an alliance. So what this now allows me to do, I believe, since that province is coastal, there we are, is deploy all my armies from the United States, who are on ready response duty, or at least enough of them. We will also deploy our armies from the UK. They should make it there within 30 days. And when these guys disgorge the landing site, we'll be waiting to defend our ally, Brazil. And because we're just there defending, we're not going to declare war on anyone. We're not going to generate any hate. We're just going to be there as the welcoming committee. And we're going to welcome them to... oops, I forgot the UK is not allied to Brazil. Please tell me they will accept. Small percentage chance. Great. Okay, we won the roll. It's fantastic. That means we can bring Brazil's, rather the UK's armies to bear. 24 days. That is just enough time to get there. Which means this is all going to be fine. So what is happening is an alien warship is in orbit. It is full of lots of mean alien war machines and stuff like that, which we don't like. Will these guys ally with Brazil? Now, I'm not sure whether that is a normal rate of success or whether the AI is fully aware. Okay, so the Indian armies won't arrive until the fighting has already started, but I still think it's worth sending one of them. Only one has a navy at the moment. I'm considering giving another one a navy to enable it to contribute. It's just a bit low tech, but you know what? It does what it does. It is now my best science-producing nation, I believe. 1.2 in India. It's tied with the United States. The economy in India is catching the US. China's is shrinking. The Indians are at a GDP per capita of 12,159. We'll push that as high as about 15,000, I think at least. But for the most part, we're pushing knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. All good. Will Brazil accept an alliance with the Eurasians? Absolutely, because we have nuclear weapons and they don't want to be left behind. But more importantly, that means that 1st Guards Tank Army, which I think is the only Eurasian army with a navy, can make it to Brazil in 31 days. So I thought this was going to end with a discussion of Habs, but I think this is going to end with us welcoming an assault carrier to planet Earth. I'm happy with that. And I've got fusion reactor farms. Great. So I'm going to do a little bit of building off screen. Pick another one of these, and then we're going to find some aliens.